Vice President Kamala Harris was in Africa, and she is saying that the United States has important relations with Africans, and they want to continue with that. And you see, there's been a worry over China's influence in Africa. So it is believed that the visit is to counter China's influence in Africa. But you see, look at the thing. If these Democrats want to get something from Africa or want to work with Africa as equal partners, then it is about time they stop their ideological immigration to Africa. Do not immigrate your ideological ideas to Africa if you want to work with Africans as equals or as equal partners. The Chinese do not force their values on Africans. They trade with Africans, give them money and stuff, and do not force Africans concerning African values. And that is something that the West and United States is not getting, especially these liberals who have taken over the West, like the Biden-Harris administration and the Obamas. So this is the problem. On all her visits to all the countries in Africa, she was about LGBTQ rights. For goodness sake, Robert Mugabe, concerning these homosexual rights in Africa,
we equally reject attempts to prescribe new rights that are contrary to our values, norms, traditions, and beliefs. We are not gays. We are not gays. We are not gays.
It is against your moral values. If you want to work with them as partners, you've got to respect that. Now let's listen to her.
Countries that you are visiting on this trip have advanced or proposed anti-gay legislation. Ghana has proposed a bill that would imprison those that engage in same-sex intercourse. Gay sex remains a crime in Tanzania, and same-sex relationships are outlawed in Zambia. What have you said to the president and plan to say to other leaders on this trip about this crackdown on human rights?
I'll start.
Okay, you see how they make it that is a what? Human right issue. Africans don't see this as human right issue.
Equally reject attempts to prescribe new rights. Equally reject attempts to prescribe new rights.
These are moral issues that Africans do not want in their country. If you want to deal with them as partners, deal with them based on their what? Their values. Do not force your European American values on the African countries.
Now, let me start with the issue of values. Who defines the values? Or who doesn't actually have values? When people talk about values sometimes, there's one part of the world that has assumed the sole responsibility and the monopoly of defining values. So the rest of us have no values. We've just to keep learning from these ones who define the values. And by the way, the danger also is, it doesn't matter how long you take learning, you will never qualify. You will just always be branded somebody who has no values or who comes from a place where there are no values. So
a great deal of work in my career has been to address human rights issues, equality issues across the board, including as it relates to the LGBT community. And I feel very strongly about the importance of supporting the freedom and supporting and fighting for equality among all people, and that all people be treated equally.
Obama did the same thing. You see, that's what all these leftists are up to. When Obama was in Kenya, it was the same thing. Now, let's get there. And then I'm going to come back to this video.
If you look at the history of countries around the world, when you start treating people differently, not because of any harm they're doing anybody, but because they're different. That's the path whereby freedoms begin to erode.
Yeah, so you see how they think that you're treating people differently because of who they are. Okay, that they're not harming anybody. African people believe in family, and they believe that gay lifestyle harms African societies. So if you have a different definition of harm, keep it in your own country. Do not extend it to African countries. Allow them to have their own definition of harm.
A great deal of work in my career has been to address human rights issues, equality issues.
Okay, so you see it as a human rights issue. African countries, for the most part, did not see that as a human rights issue. Look at this. When Kamala Harris went to Africa, almost everywhere she made a statement that in 2050, 1 in 4 people on planet Earth are going to be in Africa. Meaning that Africans are going to have what? Population boom of young people who are going to drive African with ingenuity and development and industrialization. So why do you want Africans who are looking to their prosperity about to hit their continent as a result of this population boom? Why do you want to introduce LGBTQ rights stuff into their countries so that now people are not going to give birth, in the same rate? You understand? Men going to marry men. Are they going to have children? Women going to marry women. Are they going to have children? So that by 2050, whatever you expect in Africa will not happen. So that always Africa will be backwards.
We consider, and I consider, to be a human rights issue, and that will not change.
You can consider it to be a human rights issue. It won't change. That's your problem.
But as we look forward, as all governments should, and recognize the unachieved, as of yet, opportunities that exist going forward. The median age on the continent.
Okay, so there are opportunities about to come, right? Okay, so why we should tap into the opportunities. Industrialization, jobs, investment in agriculture, all of that is going to help. LGBTQ whatever is not on our African agenda, and leave it at that. It's not Africans becoming gay that will develop Africans. Africans already have so many problems that they cannot add the homosexual, gay, whatever problems to their problems.
The continent of Africa is 19. Think about what that means in terms of potential. Think about the fact that by 20...
So the median age in Africa is 19, right? So we got young people. Let's come and mess up those young people so that their future will be bleak.
2050, 1 in 4 people occupying a place. 1 in 4 people. 2050, 1 in 4.
No, let me get this right.
By 2050, fact that by 2050, 1 in 4 people occupying a place on Mother Earth will be on this continent.
You heard that? By 2050, there's just less than 30 years to come. 1/4 of the world are gonna be in Africa. They're messing up the United States and other part of the West. So Africans are gonna be in higher numbers to be what? Advantageous positions. So let's go and destroy them before they can rise up. We thank God that our presidents and our leadership are not buying into such stuff. The Speaker of Parliament for Ghana has something to say to this.
I was so happy when I read that Pope Francis directed that no Reverend Father should celebrate over a gay or lesbian marriage. And I said, Roma Locuta complete. Causa finita. Yes, Rome has spoken, and the matter is ended. So please, committee members that will refer the bill to, we want the report. Don't be intimidated by any person.
You heard that? This was after Kamala Harris went to Ghana. The Speaker of Ghana's Parliament came out to say this, that none of the committee members working on the anti-gay legislation in Ghana should be scared of these Americans who are pushing against it.
Let the report flow. We need to legislate. Our friends just passed their law in Uganda. We may not go the way they have gone, because our constitution is very clear as to the direction we should move. And so we'll be guided by that. Because if we pass any law against the constitution, it's unconstitutional. So we have to do that. And so what are you afraid of? If you have the whole people behind you, if God is with you, who can be against you? And if God says, please go into the wilderness, multiply and fill the world, that is God giving you that command. If somebody says, please don't multiply, how can that person be strong? I don't only speak this way in Ghana. Even at the last meeting we attended in IPU at Bahrain, anybody who listened to my speech, there were sentences on this matter. Luckily, maybe because it's a Muslim country, they applauded me. If it's somewhere else, they will be asking questions, as the Vice President just did. Is it yesterday? I mean, these things should not be tolerated. That is undemocratic. What is democracy? That somebody else will have to dictate to me as to what is good and what is bad?
You heard that? The Speaker of Parliament for Ghana asking that the Vice President of the United States came to Ghana to say what? And that what is democracy? That they want to dictate to Ghana what they should do? All right. So simple. So simple. Take your LGBT to your country. Shake your shake.